All right, so we're hot. We're live.
Okay.
Let me get situated here. Another sip of coffee in me.
You know, I listened to one of these podcasts that we did outside the other day, and I loved the birds chirping in the background. It was so interesting to me because I was listening to it in the house, and I was like, oh, yeah.
I have had numerous comments along those lines that they like the background noise when we're doing it here.
Yeah.
People say I just feel like I'm
sitting there with us,
hanging out with y'all.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
Well, so shall we go ahead and roll some music?
Let's do it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Shiftless once again. It's a beautiful, glorious August day in July in Texas.
Yeah, we're 100-something degrees today. It's 105 today, they're saying.
105 with a heat index over 110.
Oh, easily.
And, hey, welcome to Texas. Now, that said, I have had the Tour de France on in the background.
Yeah.
And they're like in the high 90s there.
Yeah, and they act like they're dying.
Well,
but,
they are.
It is warm for that region.
They're used to high 80s being a warm day during the tour.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't watch today's stage yet, so no spoilers for me, please.
I haven't. I mean, I think it's still going, quite frankly, but
it usually ends about now. So yeah, but I did watch. We had a watching party on Sunday, and what a great stage that was.
Sunday was a good one.
I was talking to Garrett last night. I was telling you, and he was giving me shit about talking about the tour, and I was like, I don't know. I mean, I don't really like road riding, but I love all the tactics of the tour. It's so enthralling to me. I've watched it for probably the past 20 to 25 years, and it's just always been interesting to me.
I think we're kind of on the same page there. I'm definitely fascinated by the strategy and the tactics involved, from one stage to the next, but in the middle of a stage, and so that part I get into.
Yeah.
Just like the F1 stuff. What I don't get into though is I really don't even know one racer and I don't care about the different personalities and things. That doesn't. The teams don't matter to me. What bike brand they are. Yeah. None of that stuff means anything to me. But I like to be familiar enough with a rider to know what their strengths are and their weaknesses and their capabilities.
Yeah.
And so forth. But as far as the, cheering for this guy because he's a Brit, or cheering for that guy because he's from Portugal or whatever.
Right.
None of that holds up for me.
Yeah. I mean, I just have people, that I've watched for years, or I like to see the up-and-coming riders, and I love all the just layers of tactics, and I mean, because it's truly like a multi-level chess match.
It's like an onion.
Yeah. There's so much going on, though, and a lot of times when you're thinking, why is this person not going right now? And then you're like, oh, they were saving, so much calculation.
Going back to that Sunday stage, it seemed like Jorgensen just had it in the... Yeah.
Something's rattling.
Yeah, whenever you touch the table, you're going to rattle stuff. We've been talking about this for months.
I know. I'm a slow learner.
But, it just seemed like Jorgensen had it in the bag on Sunday. It's like, there's no way anyone's going to catch him. Yeah. And they're all, well, this was playing right into Wood's hands. It's like, no. Yup.
Yep. Yeah, it's wild. We were talking about this on Sunday, how... So I'm going to date myself again, but I've been watching the tour since pre-radio, not radio that people listen to the war on, but the radio that they used for communications, And now they all have comms and stuff. Like back then, it was a completely different game because, you would have your team car would have to pull up and tell you stuff, but even then they wouldn't know, they couldn't run all these metrics and stuff and go, oh, well, we still have 90 kilometers to go, and they're only 4 kilometers ahead with a gap of 2 minutes,
and there's a weather change coming in 38 minutes. It's going to change this to a 6 mile an hour wind instead of a 4 mile an hour wind.
But now it's just like, well, we just need to increase our speed by this much and hold this pace, and we'll reel them in like 2.5 minutes. You know. So it kind of changes it. I don't know if it's better or worse, but
I'm one of those that if I had my druthers, there would be no radios, and there would be no communication via team car at all. It would just, hey, if y'all want to come up with a team strategy on the front end, and a plan B and a plan C in case that breaks up or whatever, fantastic. I think that's cool as hell. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the team radios myself.
It definitely led to more aggressive riding back then, because if someone got lost and you couldn't see them, you hadn't have a visual on them. Yeah. People got in the main peloton, especially GC contenders, got real antsy.
We know that from our riding and our races and stuff like that. It's like the move is to get out of sight, to get around the corner, to get on the other side of the hill, or what? Because once they're out of sight, everyone's like, are they even catchable at all?
Right. That's the difference between cross country racing in the summer and cross country racing in the winter.
Yeah, I never thought about it like that before, but you are definitely dead on.
As you can see a lot further when there's no leaves on the trees. But are we going to talk about the bear this week, or are we saving that?
I think we're going to save that.
Let people catch up.
Let people catch up. I need to do another, not necessarily a full rewatch, but glance through some things and get some questions in mind and that sort of thing.
So good.
It really is. It really is. I'll be in Florida next week, so it'll probably be a good opportunity for me to catch up. But maybe
you're gonna miss our podcast next week.
I think we'll do it one way or the other.
Okay.
We'll either do I don't know what the internet connection is like at my folks' house.
Okay.
But I've also got a Bluetooth telephone thing. We'll experiment with this today to see if we have time.
I don't even know what you're showing me.
It's a Bluetooth module that plugs into the side of this.
So it's a dongle.
So I can. Oh, hey, look at that! Forgot about this. We've got plenty of audio because I've got a spare card tucked away. But yeah,
that's interesting.
So that way we can take phone calls on the podcast. We can, if we need to, possibly do it via phone next week.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Because again, I don't know what my parents' internet connection is. I mean, I know they have internet. I have no idea what the quality is though, because I've never really done any extensive uploading or anything.
That's fair.
When I'm at their place, so. We'll see what we run in, and we need to talk about bikes this week anyway.
Yeah. So I do want to mention something about bikes, and I'm back on transmissions again.
Okay.
Did you see that SRAM has now? Normally they roll out their top end stuff and they wait like a year or a season for everything to trickle down. They've already released the GX transmission that runs the same UHD and is operating on the same platform, and it's a full. I did not see the shifter with it, but it's a cassette, chain, crank, chain ring, and derailleur. But I'm sure they're using the same paddle shifters and stuff. So instead of it being I forgot what it's called. I want to say it's not Axis. It's
Eagle.
Is it Eagle?
Or what?
I can't remember.
I can't.
But now they have a GX level already.
Okay.
So I don't know what the cost is at this point.
I thought they already had both levels already out. They didn't. They only started out with the highest one.
Yeah, that's the one. Think about how Shimano does it. They'll release XTR.
Right.
Like No,
I get that.
Yeah.
But SRAM's always kind of. They haven't been the holdout like Shimano has on.
Their trickle down is always the same. Like when they first came out with wireless shifting, it was Axis, and then it trickled down. And then even on the roadside, when they went to wireless shifting, it was only the red, and then it trickled down, like the next season.
That's the big question on the roadie side, because evidently red still, like basically previous generation red and everything else is caught up or surpassed.
Yeah.
It.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, so what's the next red gonna be? What? But unknown at this time. Lots of hypotheticals. It's all outside of my realm.
Yeah.
It's all outside of my budget.
And it's funny how, we only talk about SRAM and Shimano, and meanwhile, Campy's still in the background doing their own thing,
Yeah, they're way far in the background right now.
But they're still cranking out great products, I have to imagine. I haven't put my hands on any Campy stuff in forever. But we were at North Shore last night, sitting in the parking lot like we do, and there was two roadies that rode by, and in typical fashion, we hollered Strava, and they were going down to Sneaky Pete's and turning around, and Helping Still realized that he knew the guy, and so when they came back, he hollered at him, and they came over and chatted with us, and the guy was on a 9er RDO that was set up as a road bike, and he had Campy on it, and I was just like, it just hit me. I was like, damn, I hadn't thought about Campy in a while, So, and I noticed it doesn't look like anybody on the tour's running Campy. I haven't watched every stage I've watched. To be fair, has been I wait till the evening when the 30-minute recap comes out. Yeah, because I don't have time to watch it in real time. And if I put the full stage on, I'll get glued in. I know me, and I'll be like, I'll go do that in a minute.
Like I said, when it worked really well for me just to be on in the background while I'm doing all my other computer stuff and everything. One of the benefits of being self-employed and working from home for the administrative stuff. The other being that it's like I don't have to schedule a bike ride. It's like, oh, I've got an hour and a half now. I'm gonna hop on the bike, sort of thing. So.
Also handed out some stickers last night.
Excellent.
I like those stickers. So what else is on your mind?
Nothing specific.
Nothing?
How about you?
I think I'm ready to get back on my bike.
Okay.
I think I'm going to try to ride this Sunday.
So, since you spoke with Garrett last night, I assume that means he was back on the bike already?
No, he was not on the bike.
Oh, he was just hanging out too?
He literally, he was coming in from Albuquerque and he was literally leaving there and driving down to Waco. He had a meeting this morning.
Okay.
I know Ron will be happy. He's going down there to work on the kitchen at the Baylor University. That's what he does. He builds commercial, or part of the crews that design and outfit university kitchens, like big production kitchens and
Interesting.
stuff.
I had no idea.
Yeah, pretty cool.
I always feel like I'm meddling if I ask too many questions, but if people are open and start sharing stuff, it's like I'll dig in deep, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I'm not the person that cracks open that oyster, you know. So
yeah, it's a very American thing to do, to ask someone what they do for a living. In other countries, a lot of other countries, it's considered rude.
Yes.
So it's such an American thing. What do you do for money?
What do you do for money, and why do you do it that way? Mm-hmm. It'd be better if you did this. Mm-hmm. I bet you've probably run into that along the way, where well-meaning people have suggestions that, well, if you did it like this.
You know what? It's funny. It's less and less. I don't know when it happened or how it happened, but it's the same thing with doing stuff around the house, which I've done my entire marriage. I am the fix-it guy, and used to, my wife would always go, "Do you even know how to do that?" And I'd be like, "Oh my," and it would irritate me. And then for some reason it got flipped on its head, and now it's like she thinks I can do everything. And it's like, I kind of liked it better when you didn't hit that.
When the bar was lower. Yeah. The bar's too high now.
Yeah. But it's the same way in cooking, too. You know, I used to, you know, I'd say, I'm going to make this. And, you know, people were like, well, you know how to do it? You know, and I can't think of any specific examples right now. And now it's like the complete opposite, where people just go, well, we're going to let you do it. You know, you got this, you know. And I'm always like, okay. I know I'm not conveying it properly, but
I think I get what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm kind of running into that. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but I've got this concept I'm toying with right now around gravel crits.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, tell me the format. I want to talk about that. I wanted to ask you about that in person.
Okay. Well, maybe we can brainstorm this format together, because that's kind of where I'm at. I'm at a high level concept sort of thing that I know needs to be narrowed down. I got some ideas in mind, but for, you know, more to, you know, this is the box that we have to operate in sort of thing. So I have to stay kind of in the confines of that box to some extent. But there, you know, there's some.
So what does the venue look like? What does the length look like? What does pits look like? And is there going to be barriers and frames?
Let's talk about the very loose generalities first.
Yes, let's get into it.
So the concept is not highbrow, highly structured, premier racing. This is like super grassroots.
Sure.
Weeknight, hey, let's get a bunch of chuckleheads together that are interested in racing or being competitive. I think being competitive is more along those lines, or who are wanting a higher output training opportunity.
Yeah, if you just want a red line.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so basically the idea is to utilize the Dallas levees and the Fort Worth Trinity Trails gravel sections, just to put together about roughly a 2-mile course. Consider it a closed loop. The spots I have in mind are they're out of the way of the regular trail users and traffic and stuff like that. Definitely no cars involved whatsoever.
Sure.
And then the idea is just it's really to focus on fun, inclusivity, where, hey, you're not a full-blown pro-ish crit racer, but you want to have fun with the competitive level, where people that might be those highbrow racer types that may look down their nose at somebody that doesn't have the skill set they do.
Yeah.
Well, maybe this isn't a good fit for them.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. But if you're kind of in that in-between range or whatever.
Or if you want to spectate. That's the beautiful thing about crits is...
There is that potential. I'm not building it around that at the moment.
I'm sorry. We were saying crits the whole time, and in my mind, I was confusing crits and cross racing.
Cyclocross?
Yeah, so that's why I said, never mind. So now I get it. Now I'm even more on. I'm sorry, I was not tracking there for a second.
No.
Yeah.
And perfectly reasonable. And that's a good response, because I think a lot of people are probably going to kind of cross those up a little bit, because it's like, well, so how is that different from cyclocross?
Yeah.
It's different from cyclocross because it's on gravel the whole time.
Yeah.
There's no barriers to jump over. There's
no sand pits.
No
180-degree turns.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe 120.
Yeah.
sort of thing. And that's along the lines of the safety stuff, because we don't want it just to be oval track hot laps where people are just barreling over each other, and that's probably going to be my biggest. I don't want it to be a crit-tastic.
Yeah.
In that big pileups are expected. I want to go completely the other way. It's like the idea that I'm playing with is incorporate things that kind of force people to slow down and accelerate off a tight turn, so it's not a big old bunch wadding up into a final turn. It's not built for a sprint finish per se. Currently, the whole idea that I have in mind.
We need to talk more about that. That kind of gets away from the spirit of crits, though.
Well, it is.
Okay.
And that's why it's gravel crits and not crits.
Okay.
And that's so.
Now you're talking about short track racing. Basically.
It's short. It is.
Yeah.
It really is. It's more short track racing.
Yeah.
It's gravel short track. Is probably a better description of it.
Yeah, because when I think of crits, I think of like a loop circuit that it's done for time, not for distance, and the whole thing is measured efforts, matching packs. Not letting the leader get away.
Here's where my wild card is. So, the concept is to do qualifying races that lead to a feature race at the end. Okay. Don't know how exactly all that works yet, but
sure,
playing with the concept. And then the featured race is an elimination race. So it's 10 laps, 15 laps, whatever the math works out to make it right. Where if you're at the tail end that lap, you're out.
Right.
So that's the whole point. So it isn't about. It encourages people to stretch out the front earlier in the race.
Okay.
As opposed to everybody sitting on each other's wheel, conserving energy, and saving up for the last 200 yards for a sprint.
Yeah.
I want to go exactly the opposite. Again, I want it to be more gravel-centric than road-centric. And gravel has always been more of, it's becoming less and less that way, particularly with the bigger events.
Yeah.
But at least when we do Spinistry stuff, we still focus on the solo effort aspect, the time trial, the max effort from mile one sort of thing, as opposed to, well, let's get a pack of 30 people together and conserve energy and duke it out in the last quarter mile.
Yeah, work together and So is anybody doing like gravel crits anywhere? Or short track racing's been around for a while, but normally that's done on like mountain bikes, So,
not that I know of. And again, so that's why I'm playing with the concept. And the idea is going to be that.
Now that I've heard more about it, it's a cool concept. I like it.
The idea being that at least while we sort out the format and sort out the concept, the idea is that it'll be weeknights in DFW and basically just free for Club Spinistry members sort of thing, where, hey, you want to do this, show up, you're a Club Spinistry member, and again, focus on, hey, this is grassroots, we're not going to have chip time in and all that, and I'm even playing with the idea of basically the goal isn't to be first, the goal is to finish that last lap. So if we end up with a group of 10 people that all cross that final finish,
right?
Hey, everybody, that's a hell of an effort for all 10 of y'all sort of thing is kind of the, obviously people are racing each other, so they're going to know who came in first, second, and third and everything like that.
Yeah.
But at least from the organization aspect of it, it's the goal is for people to week to week get further into, go deeper in the race, go one more lap next week than you did the week before sort of thing.
Yeah. I like that. And if there's going to be cowbell, it's going to be fun.
Cowbell will be involved.
Yeah.
And if we get the format, halfway nailed down, we'll probably put together a weekend race in the mix. It's a little bit more formal, chip timing and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But the focus isn't to create a new event per se, a new way to get more people racing per se. The idea is just another outlet for Club Spinistry members to get benefit from their membership. And we have,
and it's not as big of a time commitment either.
No, and there's a lot less logistics on my end to make it happen. It's like, weather's good, let's meet at this crossing at 6 o'clock, first race at 6:15 or whatever.
Yeah,
is kind of the idea. But
this is going to be out of your realm a little bit though, because there's not going to be any orange arrows involved. It's going to be like tape and corners and stuff, right?
I don't even think there's going to be tape. I got to, again. I have to play with. Oh, okay. So actually, hold on.
Yeah.
Some.
What's up, Lucky?
Some ideas I had in mind. Let me see. Again, I'm just sketching it out right now. So if anything jumps out at you, it's like, that's stupid, Kevin. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Or if it's like, well, that's all right, but what have you thought about doing it this way?
I'm just wondering, if you're not going to do any tape, how are you going to keep the course from getting smaller and smaller as people cut corners?
Bear with me a moment, and I'll get to that. Let me find what I'm looking for.
It's hard for me to see inside your brain.
It's hard for me to see inside my brain. That's why I'm starting to write more stuff down. Okay, here we go. Basically, kind of what I'm thinking along those lines. I mean, these aren't going to be, these will still be basically oval courses with some chicanes in them, and there's some ups and downs, up levee sides and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's the first thing I thought when you said utilizing the levees is the on ramps and off ramps.
So that basically the way I have both of these courses laid out in my head, at least right now, they both basically finish on a loose climb.
Yeah.
That is kind of the idea. Again, to discourage a sprint finish is definitely what I'm shooting for. But the idea is going to be wherever there's a turn, a mandatory turn, I'll have a cone gate. And so, again, this is an elimination format, at least for the featured event. Basically, if you touch a cone, you're out. If you touch a cone, you're done.
Okay.
And it's going to be for the field to police themselves on. We're not going to have course marshals at every cone gate or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, and hey, it's, we expect people to be honest and say, oh man, I clipped a cone, I'm out, sort of thing. Out.
Yeah.
If you go outside the cones, you're out.
Yeah. A la paintball-ish.
Yes. Yeah. Very, very similar to airsoft and paintball and that sort of thing. If you if you dab, if a foot touches the ground, you're out.
Well, that's interesting.
And so that's, again,
that shouldn't happen anyways, but
more along the lines of, if you're going to go hot into a turn inside a group of people,
and you're going to toe-mac it,
and you know that you're increasing the likelihood that you might take somebody else out or yourself out in the process.
So you're trying to make sure people are a lot more calculated, and so you're not gonna bottleneck in those cone gates, though, right? Like, no. If you have a pack of 40 people, you're not gonna make it three riders wide, are you?
It may happen, so you have to plan accordingly.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a choke point regardless. Not with the idea like a cyclocross race where it's a 180-degree turn and everybody comes to a dead.
Yeah.
No, it's where, well, and again, it's part of the reason that we're looking at doing qualifying races and a featured race. We're not looking at doing fields of 40 or 50 people. I'm realistically, I'm thinking 10 to 15 people.
And are you going to do multiple heats like they do?
The qualifying heats is the idea.
But I mean, you're going to have categories. Like, is there going to be an A, B, and C?
That's going to be dependent upon how many people are showing up, quite frankly.
Yeah.
You know me, I'm not the type that, oh, hey, we only had 3 B-level racers show up, so everybody's opposed. No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I get it.
If it's not at least half the field, there's no podium sort of thing. There may be a top finisher.
I'm just thinking, my mind's always on growing new riders, so I'm just thinking, like, if I'm new to gravel and I'm kind of a regimented workout person and I want to come and show up and do this, but I'm definitely not A level. Like, how do I get in? How do I fit in?
Okay, so the idea again.
That's where my brain is.
No, so the qualifier rounds. Basically, the top half of the field goes to the feature. So if we have 12 people in qualifier A, the top 6 that qualifies them for the feature event.
Okay.
All right. The second 6, we have a consolation race, a B-level race.
Okay.
And the B-level race will also be, that's where there's a standalone women's race, maybe a standalone masters race or something like that. And at that B-level race, the top 1, 2, or 3, they get that's a second chance for them to qualify for the feature race.
Okay.
So the idea is,
ooh,
that felt good. That felt good. If you're a newer racer or not at that A level, it's still worth your while to show up, because do everything you can in your qualifier. Yes, you know you're not going to be a feature racer most likely, but you'll get a second race.
Yeah.
And then again, the idea is from week to week to week just to improve your standings in those. And if somewhere down the road you find a way to qualify for that feature race 6 weeks down the road, that's pretty cool. That's an accomplishment at that point. It's kind of what I'm, and once you're in that feature race, then the idea is, hey, I made it to 3 laps to go. I made it to 2 laps to go. I made it to final lap.
There you go. Okay.
Does that make sense from a progression standpoint as opposed to specific categories?
But are you going to do it on a lap basis, or are you going to do it on a timed basis?
Do what?
The course, because
it'll be laps.
Okay, because and I'm not really well versed in crits, but I think they're all time based, just like cross races. Like when
no, I think they're maybe a combination.
I think you're right. Actually, I think
crits
they are lap based.
Crits are numbered laps.
Yeah, I think
cross is timed.
Yeah. I'm wrong. This is out of my realm.
It's out of everybody's realm, and that's
I shouldn't even be talking.
Okay. So I'm supposed to maybe chat with Matt on some of this stuff too, so to get his perspectives on it. I was hoping he might be able to join us today, but that didn't work out.
That would have been cool.
It would have been. But I'm again. This isn't built for just the Matt Stevenses out there. It's built for maybe some TNSS folks that maybe want to do something that's a little more competitive. Every once in a while during the week, sort of thing.
So, are you thinking that like the first couple of showings you'll have like a sort out race, kind of where people get relegated and advanced and stuff?
I think it's just qualifier. If you're in the top half of the field, you're in the top half of the field.
Yeah.
So that puts you into the A round. If you're in the bottom half of the field, you get the consolation event, the B round sort of thing. And with the focus to be the participants get stronger over time, but also the event gets strong. We do fine tune the nuances along the way, and it's like, 2 qualifiers aren't enough. We should have 3 qualifiers, or 2 qualifiers are too many. We just need 1 qualifier, but then maybe, a specific women's event, a specific masters event. Oh, we need a specific juniors event too. Maybe we need a specific flat bar event. Who knows?
Yeah.
We don't. Again, it's not for us to say this is what the audience is supposed to be. It's the people that go, this interests me. It would interest me more if.
Yeah.
And that's an evolutionary process. You don't nail it all down in 1 week.
Yeah.
But I'm also not the type to say, well, this is exactly the way it's going to be.
Right. You can't be that.
There's a lot of people that are like that.
I know, but that doesn't work out well for anybody, I don't think, except for the person that wants to stand up there.
There's something to it in some respects. I'm not condoning it, but there's definitely an audience out there that just wants to be in black and white. This is exactly how things are.
Yeah.
And they want that very narrow box. But then, they also want it to be, they want that narrow box to already be exactly what they want anyway.
Yeah. Well, they love that narrow box if it suits all their needs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And those are the, I'll be honest with you, those are typically the folks that don't usually jive with Spinistry events a whole lot, because they're not likely to go with the flow.
Yeah.
And when you're doing our stuff, you got to go with the flow. That is a focus.
As my wife likes to say, she likes it organic.
That's been one of my buzzwords.
Yeah.
from the beginning with Spinistry stuff is, in the first few years, it was, and that, people go, well, where do you see it going? Like, no idea.
Right.
It's the people are going to tell me what they want.
Yeah.
And the idea had always been, we're going to keep this super organic.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the way, the expectation got to be that we would tell people more what to do as opposed to them guiding us. And I'm not saying that's a positive or a negative.
Sure.
It's outside of my comfort zone. It was easier for me when 80% of the people, well, this is cool, but if you did it like this, everybody's saying that. Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
Now we're kind of getting to where it's really, really niche. So it's super hard to
cater to everybody.
Well, you never can cater to everyone,
Yeah.
and it's so funny. I sent out a survey last night, and the vast majority, what sorts of things interest you? What are you most interested? Blah blah blah. But I always leave an open comment box at the bottom. Hey, did I miss something, or is there something you want to say? By far, the vast majority of those comments were extremely positive. Mm-hmm. But the ones that, I wouldn't say they were less than positive, but they were trying to be helpful. But it'd be cool if you did this. Mm-hmm. It'd be cool if you focus more on racing and less on bike packing. But then the next one would be, well, it'd be cool if you focus more on bike packing but less on racing.
Sure. But those are two different factions, totally. I mean,
they are.
Yeah.
And I get that, and that's why it's so. I'm not saying we try to cater to everyone. That's not what we're trying to do.
Sure.
But we're catering to the things that interest us. Mm-hmm. And some of those things cross paths with other things that interest us, and some of them are maybe parallel at best.
Sure.
Sort of thing. So it's the one we've always had the biggest stumbling block with is the perception from the non-racing crowd that we're catering to racers, and from the racing crowd that we're catering to non-racers.
Yeah,
It's like, hey, y'all, we can all hang out together.
Yeah, I mean,
we can all have a beer side by side afterwards.
The race is at the front and the party's at the back.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the way it always goes.
Exactly.
So, that brings me to one thought process. Your very initial showing back in, what year was it? 11, 10?
Red River Riot?
Yeah.
10.
Okay. The concept at that time was to utilize Bar H and get in a lap on the mountain bike course, and then take off and do 50 miles, and then come back and do a lap at Bar H.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Correct.
So, and that didn't happen due to weather, which turned out to be freaking glorious anyways, and everybody loved it. You thought it was going to be an absolute failure because people were going to hate it because it was muddy and inclement and whatever. But it turned out to be a tremendous success. I say all that to say, are you completely away from that format at this time? Because other than I did the Monster Cross event. I think the first year you did it, I ended up breaking a cleat or losing a cleat. I can't remember what happened. But that's the only one I'm familiar with that you've done like that. And forgive my ignorance, because I don't know all of Spinistry's events.
Right.
But are you away from that format, or was it just fortuitous and it led you in a different direction right out of the gate?
Well, I mean, so the stumbling block on that, and I'm actually toying with that concept again. I have often on for several years now. Mm-hmm. Just lots of wild cards that keep getting thrown in the mix, like viruses and stuff like that.
Stupid viruses.
But the big limiter on that is venue. So basically, after the Red River Riot, Bar H was no more.
Sad. So sad.
I think we tried to do it out there again the next year, and they were basically done at that point. So finding a venue that combines being in the middle of a network of gravel roads and a mountain bike trail there's not a lot of those to choose from. Obviously, 4R
that's what I was thinking.
Now falls into that mix, and it took a while for their mountain bike trails to get to the point of awareness enough to potentially be a good fit for the format. We've tried over the years really hard to generate interest in their mountain bike trails, and we've had limited success with it. And we typically, when we do a gravel grinder out there, Red River Riot or whatever else, we'll usually throw in portions of the trail as a finishing shoot or something like that.
Just to give it exposure.
Exactly.
And to vary the terrain.
And and so that is something that's going around in my head now, as to how to incorporate that. It's kind of been turned on its head in a way, in that even though that was our original concept back in 2010, it's kind of like I've stayed away from it for the past couple of years, because it seemed like it might come across that I was trying to duplicate or copycat rule of 3 type of thing.
But I mean, a lot of people don't know Spinistry's origin story and realize that was the intent.
But that's...
Well, no, I'm just saying it's a lot of things go through my head as I bring that up, because you were talking about like your beginner's clinic, gravel clinic, where you put on, and you were talking about people struggling with just, crossing over the middle of double track and stuff. And it's funny, ironic even, to think that 13 years ago, the concept was, let's put all of these terrains together and put it in a race format over a long course, which a lot of people weren't doing at the time period.
Yeah.
And it just happened that it got relegated to just gravel. And once again, you thought it was going to be a failure, and everybody was just in love. And so it seems like you kind of just, as you do, went with the mix and said, okay, this works. Let's do another event just like, not just like it, but
same general format.
Yeah. So I think it's you don't need to care what people think if they think you're copying something. I mean, literally, you were at the beginning of all that, I mean, sure, there may have been people doing it elsewhere at the same time, but you weren't taking that from anybody else other than your own brain.
No, and I didn't, and I don't know if I conveyed that properly. When it was on my radar again, it was when Rule of 3 was new and hot, and I didn't want to come across as a copycat at that point. So trust me, it's probably one of my most regular conflicts, for lack of a better term. That's not the right way to say it.
You got to put on your blinders, Kevin, and do what Kevin does. Don't worry about anybody else.
Oh, well,
I mean, if people want to go do Rule of 3, go do Rule of 3.
No, it's not that people are making me do what different from what I want to do. It's people that don't know that history or where we come from or how we do things, and there's a lot of assumptions out there.
Sure.
If we do a route through this area and some other promoter uses 2 of those roads for their event,
right?
I'll get 50 people blasting me that I'm stealing routes. Sometimes it's just easier to let time go by and then ease into something, as opposed to...
You're going to make me cuss.
Well, you might as well, because
Screw those people.
It's just something to be cognizant of.
Sure.
And and again, I'm not at the point where the timing still doesn't quite seem right for that 4R type of event for various reasons. It's something I'm playing with in my head.
Yeah.
And, somebody else could jump on it in the meantime and do it in front of me.
Yeah.
It could happen.
Yeah.
Again, going with the organic thing, it's the the feather isn't tickling my anus yet.
Yeah.
You know, so I need to when that tickle gets a little more prominent, then I'll chase it.
Speaking of throwback concepts, I want to put one back on your plate that we talked about probably 10 years ago, maybe longer. And I can't remember exactly what the premise was, but it was an adventure-style race, like almost a route-finding race that was multi-surface. And we were talking about, at least at the time, we were talking about running it straight grassroots. Your entrance fee was a 6-pack of beer, which now I guess it could be a 4-pack of, decent beer. And the winners got allocated the beer when they got back, and then the rest of the beer was just for finishers, and so it was a party at the end. And I can't remember, because we talked about it a couple of times, something along those lines. And I think that'd be a fun concept to at least kick around, especially for Spinistry members. Show up, bring a 4-pack of beer or a 6-pack of beer, and then when we finish, whoever finds their way to the finish, well, obviously they'd know where they were going, because you'd have to do a loop. You can't do that point to point. I'm just spitballing. I can't remember. We talked about it, like including a bunch of, I know that your and my routes and stuff are a little different, but, incorporating some fun elements into quote unquote race. But I wouldn't really see it as a race.
It's, what's the best way to put it? Those are the types of things that really interest me.
Yeah.
From if I were to participate in these sorts of things.
Yeah.
That's right in line with the sort of thing I would like to do.
Sure. But it doesn't appeal to the masses.
It's not.
That's that box that doesn't fit these other guys that we were talking about earlier.
It's a very, very narrow niche.
Yeah.
It really is. And
you think there's more appetite for that now, though, than there was 10 years ago? Because
I think there's less appetite for it now than there was 10 years ago.
But think about the initial concept of what you were going to do at Bar H.
That's why. So
think about how many people showed up for that, knowing that they were going to ride the trail and then ride 50 miles of gravel.
We're back to what I think personally is kind of a core issue along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
Issue is the right word. The lack of popularity of XC mountain biking.
Mm-hmm.
How that's gone downhill. We're back to that type of stuff you're labeling there.
Mm-hmm.
That appeals to the traditional cross-country mountain bike type people more so than crit racers, new gravel riders, triathletes, the newer endurance crowd, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
It's not that it's something that wouldn't interest them if they actually tried it, sort of thing.
Sure.
But it's just not in their consciousness at all.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So it's one of those things. You throw something out like that, and it's like
and nobody shows up.
It doesn't even register with them as something to consider, sort of thing.
Well, I think if you lead with your entrance fee as a 6-pack of beer, I think you have people's attention.
Well, maybe.
Maybe.
And again,
and you get a head start for like interesting beer or you could make it fun, a lot of fun. There's a lot of ways you can run with that.
It sounds like you've got a good concept to organize an event around, Brad.
That's not my game. I'm just a carnival barker, I'm just throwing out concepts here.
And along those lines, I've got a gazillion concepts.
Yeah, I know. I figured
I've got a gazillion concepts, and it's a matter of what justifies my time, not from a dollars and cents perspective. It's what justifies my time in that I have these Club Spinistry members that I got to make sure they get their bang for their buck. They get their value, and they want to tell other people about it, sort of thing. And sure, are there 5 Club Spinistry members that would drool over that format and be all over it? Sure.
Yeah.
But it makes more sense for me to take the same effort that appeals to 50 Club Spinistry members. Not the masses, but
I get that.
It's got, it's...
And maybe something like that, just has to, like, there's probably a time and a place for it, and maybe it's just not developed enough. Maybe it gets sidelined.
Again, I could, along those lines, I've been trying to, over the years, throw out these little kernels here and there, and see if they attract any interest, or maybe, hey, I know this person would really be into this, so I'm going to throw this into the mix, and it changes up things. And I think along the way I expose people to more stuff like that. But again, it's never going to be, things like that are never going to be mass appeal.
Yeah. But I mean, back to the very beginning, because I keep coming back to this. I'm sorry, but you didn't know how popular your very first event was going to be, and the attendance. Like, looking back as a flagship event, as your first flag in the sand, the attendance was high.
Oh yeah.
And then.
But we also talked about it for 4 months, and it was the only thing on the radar, sort of thing.
That's true. There is a lot more events now.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
That is a fair
point. And again, it's also my focus was for that to be the biggest thing it could be at that time. Mm-hmm. Realizing it was a specialized event. Yeah. So, but in that box.
I don't think you can say specialized. They're going to sue us.
Good chance of it. Oh, I can't even say epic, can I?
Dang it. Or Roubaix.
Damn. Olay. No, can't say that.
Can't say that either.
Damn it. But
they just own all the French words. Which is ironic.
But that hasn't been a focus of mine for years. I've never, since that first Red River riot, the focus has never been, well, let's get the. When I say mass appeal, I may be misstating that. I'm not trying to get the most people possible.
Right.
I've for years I held down the Texas Chainring Massacre signups because I didn't want to deal with a 1,000-person event.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm trying to do. That's not fun for me. When things get too big and cumbersome, I'm not having fun putting them on.
Right. It gets stressful.
Extremely.
Yeah.
So I've always tried to stay outside of that realm. When I say mass appeal, I mean along the lines of it just interesting to more people.
Sure.
Sort of thing.
I see a lot of similarities in what I do and what you do as well.
I see a ton.
Yeah.
There's a lot of parallel there.
Because I'm in the same boat. Like, I'm trying to figure out like what people want, and I'm not as networking as you are. I don't send out surveys and stuff like that, and so I don't really have my finger.
You haven't been doing it for 13 years either.
That's true.
That's what I'm saying. There was a shift probably around 2014, 2015, where kind of the organicness of it matured, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
We got into that realm of incremental gains.
Yeah.
Where, the organic stuff, we can still. It points us in the right direction, and more people are getting interested. But instead of 20 more people a week, it was turning into 2 people a week, sort of thing. So it's still growth, but it starts to become. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's, like the podcast audience is along those lines. It's like, that first couple weeks, huge growth.
Yeah.
But then since then, it's just steady growth, and that's fine. Somewhere along the way, there'll be a big spike for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But we don't want to contrive it.
Right.
It's just let it be what it's going to be.
Yeah.
But over time, somewhere along the way, it's like, okay, now we're at our plateau. This is where we're at.
Yeah.
And then we can do something, and obviously, listenership goes down 20%. Oh, we did something wrong there.
Yeah.
As opposed, now we're just finding our way with establishing an audience.
That being said, if you guys have any ideas on what you want to hear us talk about, where can they send an email, Kevin?
Why don't you tell us, Brad?
I think it's Shiftless. Is it shiftlesslive.com?
at gmail.com.
Oh, at gmail.com.
Shiftlesslive@gmail.com.
Why do you tell me to tell them when you know?
So you can learn and you can tell people going forward.
That's true.
And things like that. We take a tell, show, do approach in our training.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'll show you, and then you got to do it.
Right. I think that's the best way to learn. That's my thought process. So what else is going on?
Man, how are we 55 minutes into this already?
Because that's what we do. We just run our mouth.
Oh, I know something I want to talk about.
See, there's never a shortage of stuff to talk about when you and I sit down.
I'm going to touch on something, and I know we've touched on it before, but I'm going to reinforce it. Since you brought it up in that our stuff kind of parallels each other, I really, really want to find some way down the road to marry our stuff together for a weekend or something. But
it'd be a lot of fun.
But I don't know what I don't. Again, along the lines of I don't have anything in mind specifically. Yeah. So if and I don't know what you're comfortable with or uncomfortable with, but we'll talk.
You know I'm coming to Big Ben. I'm coming.
Okay.
And you know that I'm going to cook.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that.
I don't know what that situation looks like. I don't know what anything, what the accommodations or lack thereof are and what I'll have to work with. But I'm definitely going to do some stuff. We'll figure it out.
So last week, and Big Ben's another transition to it. Yeah. Last week we talked a little bit about the epic trails in Texas, the IMBA epic trails, and I was familiar with the Big Bend.
There's only one. Oh, there's only one.
There were two.
Oh, there's two. That's
there
right.
was the Big Bend, whatever Fresno Sauceda Loop or whatever, the Big Bend Ranch State Park one.
Yeah.
And the other one was the Good Branch Loop or something like that at I can't even remember what. Anyway, whatever it was.
Yeah, they run so I didn't associate the two, but they run that race. It's called the Dragon's Back or something.
Dragon Slayer. Dragon Slayer. So I didn't realize that was the Dragon Loop.
I didn't either.
So when I realized it was whatever label that IMBA gives it isn't the common name for that.
Right.
It's the Dragon is what it. So once I realized that's what it was, I was more familiar of the trail existence, for lack of a better term, but it's still nothing I've ever ridden.
Yeah.
And I still had, it's like, if this is an epic trail, why don't I hear about people making trips to it? Or, I'm going to go do this weekend or whatever else.
Right.
So I threw up a post yesterday or the day before or something. Hey, what's the poop and the scoop on this trail? And it was kind of along the lines that we were talking about. It sounds like it's a challenging trail. And it's one of those, it's very hot and cold. People either are really into it or they really hate it, sort of thing. But it kind of, my understanding was very few people would truly consider it an epic trail.
Yeah.
And we're back to the basic conversation. We don't have epic mountain bike trails in Texas is ultimately what, because we just don't have the public lands to support it, is what it boils down to.
I'd say Cross Timbers, if Cross Timbers was a little bit more laid out a little bit better. Well, it's not a loop. I think that's the biggest part. But it's not an IMBA epic trail, but it's definitely an epic trail. But I think you're right. Like, we don't have any really big loops,
Well, and generally, they don't necessarily have to be loops because like SBT's not a loop.
That's true.
But
SBT is also not an out and back. It's intended to be run.
That they need to be point to point or loop.
Yeah.
And are there any point to points into? I don't. Yeah. But evidently the Dragon Trail is evidently a good example, and maybe Cross Timbers is too, or maybe Cross Timbers is better cared for these days. I haven't been out there in years.
It is, from what I understand.
From what I understand, it is, but I still don't know if that's end to end or just main segments or whatever else. But the Dragon Trail evidently, along the same lines as the net, ongoing maintenance is an issue. Evidently it's a crapshoot whether it's overgrown or trees down everywhere or whatever else. So it for whatever reasons, it doesn't seem like it's regularly maintained. And things like SBT and Monarch Crest and other, the ones out by Fruta and everything like that. I mean, that's part of what makes them epic is that
the landscape
well, and you're going to go out there and the trail's rideable, basically speaking.
Well, they get a lot more traffic. I mean,
chicken and egg.
Yeah.
Chicken. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair point. But, I mean, the thing is, we have so many good trails here. It's just, I mean, even just in DFW, I mean, hell, North Shore's a freaking incredible trail.
North Shore is a very good trail, and I think a lot of people around here take it for granted.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
It's funny because our, TNSS started at RCP years ago, and when RCP was going through all their crap, we migrated it to North Shore, and
actually Pearly did that originally.
Oh yeah.
When Jan got her job in Fort Worth, we started doing Tuesday. What did we call it?
I know there was
TNNS is what we called it, Tuesday Night North Shore.
Yeah.
And RCP was still going on.
Yeah.
But we couldn't get to RCP, so we had a fairly good crowd that were doing Tuesday nights at North Shore, and sure.
I know there was a lot of reluctance.
And we got our chops busted by the same people that ended up moving out here and then moved TNS.
Yeah. Back then we started at Rockledge.
No, we did MAD.
Well, when we first started doing TNSS out there, we started at
Rockledge.
Rockledge.
When we did TNNS, we did it out of MAD. Yeah. Shannon was one of the original crew that joined us out there, and Ben Wright and some other folks like that. And I'm not even sure when that changed over.
But maybe my point was, I've been riding North Shore, for 20 years probably, and it wasn't my home trail, because I used to, when I lived in the colony, even though RCP wasn't that close, I used to wake up at like 5 in the morning, drive to RCP, hot lap it, and then go to work, and then on Tuesday night, obviously that's where I was, and then North Shore is now, like, I consider it my home trail, and every time I ride it, I just think, how lucky am I to have this as my home trail,
Yep.
I mean, it's such a good trail. And it's obviously changed so much over the years. Back when I started riding it, it was a lot shorter. It was two-way. It was dangerous. I mean, literally dangerous. Back then, I probably had 2 or 3 head-on collisions with people, you know. And so it's looped now, and obviously, you've got people that want to dumb down the trail, and then you've got people that, want to go around stuff, and, weather plays a big factor too, with rain and erosion and flooding and everything. So that's the other thing about that trail versus a trail like RCP, which I would argue, other than the addition of loops and stuff, hasn't really changed that much over the course of the years. But North Shore, you go out there 3 weeks apart and the lines may change, the momentum changes and stuff. And that's just it's an engaging trail. And I want to say there's something for everybody, but really it's not the best beginner trail. I mean, the east side's,
East
really
side
good.
is advanced beginner.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And west side is
not beginner.
But I love me some west
and the
side.
funny, when I first started riding North Shore, back when it was out and back, I would start from Twin Coves. I mean, this is when I first started riding bikes.
Yeah.
Because that was the closest point to my house.
Yeah.
So I would ride there, and so I would just ride that in. Because, I'd usually ride Knob Hills. That was my local trail.
Yeah.
And that's when Knob Hills was out and back, and North Shore was out and back. And so I would just ride the Twin Coves and basically to Madden back.
Yeah.
Because, I was bloodying myself up every ride.
Yeah.
Sort of. I didn't know any better. It's like, well, this is how I'm going to get better at this.
Yeah.
And I think the first time I rode the east side of North Shore, it's like, huh.
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I was mostly, so I did a lot of JB,
Mm-hmm.
Nob Hills, and North Shore. And that was basically my jam.
Yeah.
Through 2008 or so,
Mm-hmm.
generally speaking. And then they started looping the stuff, and it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Yeah. North Shore's so much better now that it's a loop. And I mean, what a great effort by all the trail stewards to make that happen and work with the Corps and just, I mean, there's some really good stuff out there. So I'm very thankful for that trail. It's been a good one to me.
And I think we are spoiled around here. Well, I know we are.
Mm-hmm.
It's disconcerting to see people bashing what we do have at our, it's like, well, that's not real mountains, or that's no Bentonville. It's like, no,
because we work with what we have.
Yeah. It's like,
yeah,
it's like we can't build a mountain for you.
Right. But I mean, when I lived in the colony, Arbor Hills was, I don't know, 5 miles from my house. And I used to ride to Arbor Hills and ride Arbor Hills. And even then, I mean, say what you want about Arbor Hills. It's a very short format. So, I mean, it's not, I wouldn't consider it a destination trail by any means. It's much shorter than Corinth, and I wouldn't consider Corinth a destination trail, but both of those are great trails to incorporate into a ride, I would say.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I always, my big thing in that early 2000s phase before Dorba went on that explosion of trail growth,
Mm-hmm.
Back when they used to, we've only got so many volunteers, we can't manage the trail.
Yeah.
It's like, again, to the chicken and the egg thing.
Yeah.
If there's more trails, there's more members, sort of thing. So I always said there should be a trail in every zip code, sort of thing. It doesn't have to be a North Shore in every zip. It can be an Arbor Hills. It can be a horseshoe.
Yeah.
It can be a Harry Moss or whatever else.
Yeah.
If there's something right in everyone's neighborhood, whether it's where this is where I work. I have a trail 5 minutes from here on my way home.
Yeah.
Or I have a trail 10 minutes from the house outside my front door, sort of thing. That's the biggest thing in a metro area like this that's going to grow mountain biking and a mountain bike club, sort of thing. And I think
I love those trails. I mean, like have you ridden Canyon Falls?
What's Canyon Falls?
So the new development that is, call it catty corner to Nob Hills. Nob Hills is...
Okay. Yeah. I know. Okay. No, I have not ridden that yet.
Great neighborhood beginner trail. It's super... I mean, it reminds you of the south side of RCP, almost. It's just super fun and flowy. Once again, not a destination trail.
Right.
But there's, other than 1171, there's nothing stopping you from riding Nob Hills, riding over to Canyon Falls, and then riding back.
So how many miles is Canyon Falls, would you guess?
I think it's around 3 or so, but it's it's a great beginner trail. And it's also a good trail for you to learn how to maintain
There was
momentum.
something weird about it when it opened up several years back when Shadow first opened it up, but then it wasn't accessible. It was open but not accessible or something like that.
I think it's always been accessible. Because it's a quote-unquote neighborhood trail, I don't think, it's not a Dorba trail.
Right.
So there's no publicity. Nobody really advertised it. I mean, I know Shadow kind of touted it like, hey, go check out this trail I built. But other than that, there's not been a campaign for it or anything.
Then there doesn't necessarily need to be.
Yeah, I think they've almost...
I was under the impression that it didn't come to fruition. I guess is the best. It was like it was opened and then it was closed for some reason. And
no, it's been open. I mean,
5 years?
No, not that long.
Yeah.
Has it? Maybe. God, I'm getting old. But it's it's a fun trail.
So where is the trailhead proper?
It's right by the dog park.
Okay.
But see, that's the thing, is because there's a loop there, and I think that's the shorter loop, and then you take the path and go on the other side of the road, which you can go the path underneath the road and then wind back around, and then there's another trail entrance for the other loop. So Is there anything that's got this outlined somewhere where you can see it in black and white and know what you're trying to do? Yeah, there's a marquee at the trailhead at the dog park.
At the dog park?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know where the dog park is.
Yeah.
I've been there.
It's a fun
And there wasn't anything. They
trail.
told me there was a mountain bike trail there, but it's been a few years.
So so you know where the bathroom is at the dog park.
Yeah.
If you are standing in front of the bathroom, if you look over your right shoulder, there is where the woods begin on the other side of the parking lot, because that parking lot's kind of a little horseshoe.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the other side of the parking lot from where the water fountains and bathrooms are, and there's a marquee there. And it's weird because there's two different entrances. The entrance that was the initial entrance, for some reason, is still open, but then they shifted it like 25 feet down, and there's another entrance, and that's where the marquee is.
Gotcha.
So, and it's one of those trails, when that trail is in good shape, it is super fast, super flowy, and it's just a good, like, stretch your legs, learn how to maintain momentum. You know, I always go out there and just try to stay off my brakes.
Sure.
You know? That kind of trail. It's just a fun trail.
I will check that out when I get back from Florida.
Yeah.
I would say I would check it out this week, but it's just too damn hot. I ain't doing it.
It is. But I do, like a morning ride, stretch my legs, because I can take back roads all the way there.
Yeah.
And so I can leave from my house and ride down there and ride 2 laps and turn around and ride back, and it's like right at 20 miles. And it's just a fun ride.
Yep. That's the way to do it.
Yep.
And that's and see that's kind of along the lines of what I'm trying to get more people to do, that type of stuff, the ramble type of stuff, because that's what I'm if I can do a whole weekend ramble that ties in Knob Hills, and the Ho camps and winds up to 4R or whatever sort of thing. I would love to do something like that. And
but you got to appeal to the masses.
Or when Kevin wants to ride his bike, you want to tag along with me while I go do this.
Yeah.
That's kind of along that. So that's so the niche stuff like that is going to be Kevin weekends when I ride my bike and do this stuff. Anybody wants to tag along, come tag along, sort of thing. Because that's what I have fun with. Like, I'm personally.
Well, it's plain.
No, I thought I saw movement up there in the reflection, but maybe not. Maybe it was just a bird flying across or something.
Squatch.
Could be. Like personally, I wouldn't have any interest in participating in a gravel crit myself.
Yeah.
That's not my jam.
Yeah.
I would have fun watching it. I would definitely have fun putting it on.
Yeah.
No ifs, ands, or buts about that. But from a participation point of view, it's not what works for me. But that's why I'm encouraging feedback from you. I'm encouraging feedback from Matt. I'm encouraging people to give feedback that have a little bit of familiarity with my mad scientist approach to stuff.
Yeah.
People that don't know how Kevin works,
nobody knows.
We've
how
got
Kevin works.
We got too many bridges to cross before my stuff's going to even begin to make sense to you.
Yeah.
But
I think it's at least on the surface, it sounds like a lot of fun. I'm still kind of turning over the elimination. I love that concept of, like essentially tapping people out. You know?
Yeah.
And then I like how, at least from like the crit perspective, I like the multi-race format, how there's going to be almost heats, if you will, because that encourages spectatorship too, which I think is another aspect of crits that make them so much fun. I mean, like, when you go to a really, any crit that has any salt, there's more people spectating than there are participating. And that's what kind of breeds that atmosphere, if you will, and it lends to that just camaraderie.
Along those lines, again, my hope, anyway, basically the spots I have picked out aren't going to be spectator friendly, and that I'm going to drive out there and watch this sort of thing. But if you want to ride your bike a couple miles to get to the spot, it'll be spectator friendly.
Yeah.
But it's also, the idea is, and that's part of why I want to do the heat format, the qualifier format, is when these people are racing their heat, there's the rest of the crowd there watching them race and cheering them on, sort of thing. And even if you're eliminated and don't make the feature race, well, you're in the consolation race and you finish that, you're going to stick around for the feature race and cheer on all the feature racers, sort of thing. So the racers are the spectators in that environment.
Sure.
I think it builds on itself some there.
Yeah.
And again, if it turns into a weekend event, a truly formal, organized event thing, then we do lay it out where it makes sense for a crowd to come in and that sort of thing. But, we'll play with it. We'll play with it.
I think that sounds like fun.
That's the idea. If I get 10 people to show up for the first night, it's a success.
There you go. Yeah.
And if it goes anywhere from there, it does. And if it doesn't go anywhere from there, hey, I can ride my bike for 2 miles at the tail end of the field and watch other people go out in front of me.
What else is going on in Kevin's world?
Just doing the taking care of elderly parents thing.
Yeah.
Starting this weekend. So we'll see where that goes.
As a good child does. I have to ask you a question because I honestly don't know. You have siblings?
Yes.
Yeah.
I am the oldest of 4.
Okay. All right.
Jan is also the oldest of 4.
That's interesting. I'm an only child, and my wife is also an only child.
That is interesting.
That's why we have 2 kids. Because we both said, I just don't want my kid to be an only child. Grass is always greener, right?
Yeah. There's pluses and minuses to both.
Sure.
There's no doubt about that. Yeah. Everybody should just be thankful for what they have and take it from there. But heading to Florida Saturday. No idea how long I'm going to be there. So that's kind of throwing a wrench in our works for the summer. But it's so damn hot, it doesn't really matter at this point.
Where are you going in Florida again? Because I just had a crazy brainstorm. I've got a buddy down in Florida, and I know Florida's a big state, but I would love to make an introduction to him with you and let you talk to him. He puts on huge format races that are very grassroots in Florida. He runs, have you heard of the Huracan 300? It goes from coast to coast in Florida.
I think I've heard of it, but I don't know the details off the top of my head. I'm going to Ponte Vedra Beach, basically between Jacksonville and St. Augustine on the East Coast.
How do you spell that?
Ponte, Ponte, one word. Second word, Vedra, V-E-D-R.
I got Vedra. Oh, V-E. So I don't know where Carlos is. I need to reach out to him because I think he's on the East Coast as well.
He's probably Southeast Coast. Just that's the way population works in Florida, generally speaking.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong. He's most likely in the
I'm going to reach out to him.
Miami, Fort Lauderdale area, most likely.
I don't know what your schedule looks like, and it's none of my business, but I would love for you to at least chat with him and check him out. And, I don't know where where is New Smyrna?
New Smyrna is not too far south. That's down towards Daytona.
Yeah, because that's where Flea is now.
I think I knew that.
Yeah, he's in New Smyrna. But anyways, I'll start a message with the three of us and at least make the introduction.
Okay.
Because I didn't even know that he calls himself a race promoter. He just puts on events, that are like, hey, show up.
That's kind of what I want our stuff to, for the most part, evolve into. That's what I would really like Club Spinistry to be. That's the goal for next year. We'll have Texas Chainring Massacre, Red River Riot, just classic events like that still around but the whole point is let's just do a bunch of fun riding just for the membership to hang out and do stuff. And that's the beauty of it is, if we don't have to worry about it being a 200-person event, if we don't have to worry about covering insurance costs, because if you're a club member, you're part of the club insurance and things like. We can just do stuff that's for 10 or 15 people and have a good time together.
Right.
And so we have 52 weeks of doing stuff for 20, 30 people, and maybe a big one here and there. Everybody has a good time throughout the course of the year. It's kind of the way. So that allows us to do that niche and specialty stuff that I would like to be able to do.
Speaking of catering to a small faction, this guy, weekends are always out for me.
Yes.
That's why I don't make it to hardly any Spinistry events.
Well, that's why. That's right in line with. Well, but you won't make the gravel crits either, because we're probably going to make those Tuesday nights, most likely. But we'll also be doing Wednesday and Thursday night stuff on a week-to-week regular.
Yeah.
And that'll be Kevin rides.
Yeah.
Again, along the lines of, hey, Kevin's doing this Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Let's do. But I want to find things that are kind of regular.
Yeah.
I'd like to throw some mountain biking in the mix along those lines, but don't know yet.
Yeah.
So we will be doing stuff Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night. As soon as it gets under 100 degrees on a regular basis.
Which will happen maybe October.
Maybe. But yeah, we'll do pop-up rides in the meantime. Oh, hey, it's only 98 tonight, so let's meet at the. I don't know what works yet.
We need to do like a night ramble.
That's got potential.
That'd be a lot of fun.
That's got potential. That's got a lot of potential, actually.
Yeah.
I'm going to play with that idea.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we roll it out?
Yeah, I think I've said enough.